Hi, it's Dr. Michael Bruce here, and welcome to Sleep School. I'm here to teach you a little bit about sleep and how it really works, because I think it's going to be very helpful for you for the rest of the course. So, one of the things that we know is that sleep works in two very distinct systems in the brain. One is what we call our sleep drive, which is a lot like hunger, right? So I'm hungry, I eat something, and then that hunger begins to dissipate. The same holds true with sleep. When a cell eats a piece of glucose, something kind of comes out the back end. That's called adenosine. As adenosine works its way through your bloodstream, it goes into a very particular spot in your brain with very particular receptor sites. As these receptor sites fill up with adenosine, you get sleepier and sleepier. Now, here's something that's kind of an interesting, kind of geeky fact, if you will, is if you look at the molecular structure of adenosine and the molecular structure of caffeine, they're off by one molecule. So caffeine fits perfectly into that receptor site and blocks the adenosine from coming in. This is one of the reasons why caffeine keeps you awake. This is another reason why when your brain burns through the caffeine and adenosine comes rushing in, one of the reasons why you get a caffeine crash. But that's all a little bit different, and there's some great information in our caffeine section as well. Now, if you're thinking about sleep drive, again, buildup of adenosine, but that's not the only system. There's a second system called your sleep rhythm. This is your chronobiology or your circadian rhythm. So just like the fact that you usually get hungry at breakfast, lunch, and dinner around those times, the same holds true with sleep, is most people, generally speaking, have a tendency to get sleepy somewhere around 10 to 11 o'clock at night. When your sleep drive is high and your rhythm is locked, you sleep. And that's why you have to use both systems. However, if either one of these is off, that's when you can have a sleep disorder. Now, could you have ever experienced a time where you have a very high drive but not the right rhythm? Of course. So think about this. Maybe you were out on the weekend, you went for a big bike ride, or you walked around the mall, or you did something that was physically kind of exhausting. And boy, are you tired. You ever have a situation where you get in bed early because you're so exhausted, but you sit there and you stare at the ceiling and you can't fall asleep? That's a situation where your drive is very high, but because you're in bed early, your rhythm is off. And of course, you don't sleep. The opposite can hold true as well. Do you ever have a situation like this where after dinner you're watching the ball game or a movie on the couch and boom, you're out, right? Which is lowering your drive. Then you wake up around 9:30, go upstairs, wash your face, brush your teeth, get in bed at your normal bedtime of 10 o'clock, and guess what? You don't have enough drive and your rhythm is off. So either one of these can happen. And the big thing to remember here is you want your drive to roughly be balanced with your rhythm. Now that you kind of understand the idea behind drive and rhythm, I want to talk to you about sleep stages. This also is going to be important for later on. So here we've got what's called a hypnogram. And when you look at this hypnogram, you can see that the orange is actually wake. Then the gray area is stages 1 and 2 sleep, which is very light sleep. Then when you go down into the darker blue, that's stages 3 and 4. This is deep sleep. Then you go back up to the gray and then on into the light blue, and that is REM sleep. So let's talk about this slide for just a second. First of all, you'll notice that every time you hit REM, the process seems to happen again. So that's what's called the sleep cycle. On average, we see that sleep cycles run roughly 90 minutes, and people mostly have 5 of those a night. And you can see those here with the light blue because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different light blues. The next thing you should notice is that the deep sleep, or the dark blue, seems to happen in the front part of the night, and the lighter blue has a tendency to happen more in the back part of the night. That's important as well. When we look at stages 3 and 4, which represent roughly 20 to 25% of the night, this is the wake up and feel great sleep. This is actually your physically restorative sleep. This is where your blood pressure drops, respiration slows down, and growth hormone is emitted. What is this growth hormone thing, Dr. Bruce, and why do I care about it? Growth hormone is very, very important because this is where cellular and muscular repair occurs. So any insults or injuries that you might have gotten throughout the day, this is the time where it's going to feel better, especially if you had a big workout or any workout at all. This is actually happening during the first third of the night, as you saw on the previous slide. And the reason is, I think, we don't know for sure, that we kind of have to get the body fixed first because then we'll go on into the mind. Speaking of the mind, that's where REM sleep plays a very large role, which again represents roughly 25% of the night. This is the mentally restorative sleep, okay? This is where you move information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. your muscles become very, very relaxed, almost to the point of paralysis. Why? So you can't act out your dreams. Believe it or not, there's actually an increase in respiration and blood pressure. And if you didn't know any better and you just looked at somebody's brain waves, you almost can't tell the difference from being awake and being in REM sleep because it's such an active state, primarily due to dreaming. Dreaming occurs because of an increase in this brain activity, and something that we now know has a lot to do with this moving of information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. Again, this happens mostly in the last third of the night, so if you wake up earlier than normal, you're probably cutting out your REM sleep, and that's a lot of times where that morning brain fog comes in. Thanks for coming to Sleep School. There's going to be a quiz on some of this information coming up next.